The impulse leg will always be labeled trip X.
It's what?
X to A. Now, once the impulse has been identified, we're going to look for price action to pull back to a minimum of the 50% retracement. To find that out, we got to use a Fibonacci retracement tool, excuse me.
What I got it from.
We'll look for price to pull back to the 50%. Now, it's a minimum of the 50%, meaning it has to touch the 50. It doesn't have to close, but it at least has to wick to the 50. Now, if price decides to wick up to the 618, this is an invalid back pattern, and we can start looking for maybe a Gartley. So we can't even wick to the 618. If we touch the 618, this pattern is invalid. So this will be our C leg. Once we identified that prices retrace back to the minimum of the 50, we can begin to look for our no, that's a B, excuse me, I'm sorry. I had to excuse me, I'm a little bit nervous, my first time.
Dottie.
You're good.
That's going to be the B. Once we've identified the B leg, we can begin to look for our C. We'll leave this out here. Down here. Now to identify the C leg, we got to use a Fibonacci retracement from A to B. And we need price to retrace down to a minimum of the 38.2, the 382, but it can also retrace down to the lows of the A. As long as price doesn't break our A leg, the pattern is still a valid pattern, and the C leg is valid. At this point, we can begin to look for our D extension to complete our pattern. Pretty simple. Back pattern has to retrace back to the 886. That's going to be the 886 from our X of A move. If it doesn't reach the 886, it's an invalid pattern. Once we identify our D leg, we can look for entries. We'll go over entries and stops in a second. This will be the same if we were to look for a bullish back pattern. We look for our X to A move, impulse, or our anchor leg. Then we would look for price to retrace back to a minimum of a 50% retracement, not touching the 618. So as long as price comes to the 50 and doesn't touch the 618 at all, the B leg is still valid.
All the time. Did you read the application yet?
Once we've identified a valid B leg, we can begin to look for a C leg. We can find this from our A to B. We'll use a Fibonacci retracement. Look for price to pull back to a minimum of a 382. But it can also, like I said, it can go all the way back to the extreme lows of A as long as price doesn't break A, still valid. Now we're looking for our D extension to come up to, again, the 886. And we'll begin to look for our entries long. As far as stops, the way I figure out a stop on my bullish bat pattern is I go Fibonacci extension from X, excuse me, Fibonacci extension from A to X back down to A. You're going to want to use your 113 extension level for your stops every time. As far as targets, we're going to use the Fibonacci retracement again. We'll go from A to our D leg. Let me get rid of some of this noise. Let me draw this out so it's not confusing. Targets will go from Fibonacci retracement from A to D. We'll look to take our first target at the 382 and the second target at the 618. This is why we trade a lot of bat patterns in legacy, because you can see that stop loss that's going to be our risk to our reward. First target being here. Second target being at the 618. As you can see, risk reward will be almost at least 2 to 1 every time if the bat pattern is traded correctly. I can get rid of all this stuff and we can try to find something in the market. Do I have any questions as of now?
I have a question.
Let's go.
Okay, I understand that when the bat pattern is complete, you look for entry. So where exactly, like, how do you detect where is a good spot to get in after the pattern is complete?
Like I say, once the pattern is complete, we're basically looking for that 886. XA, we're gonna need a 50%. We'll go to here. At least 382. We'll be safe right there. All right, this being the D extension. Yes, sir.
Go ahead, finish what you're doing. Go ahead.
This being the D extension, we're looking for the 886. Once you see price approaching this 886, we're basically looking to enter at the 886 with this pattern. Somewhere around here, we go there.
Okay, so would it be basically like the completion of that D leg?
Say it again. At the completion of the D leg, we'd be looking to get in. Yes, ma'am. In this case, we'd be looking to get in long at the completion of this D leg.
Got you. Thank you.
And someone else had a question? Sure. Are there any more questions right now? I know someone said something.
Kevin, I think it was Kevin.
So Donnie, yeah, I'm trying to get my phone unmuted. So when you get to that D, right, are you looking for some kind of market structure before you get in, or are you just getting in when you hit the 886?
Market structure should always, you should always have your market structure going. And it usually,
as far
always
as like
got
some
to
kind of
use
like
market
double
structure.
bottom or some kind of candlestick pattern or something like that. I mean, because
you always want to look for the candlestick patterns when you're trying to enter. You always want to look for, for price to not. Of course, if it's too impulsive down, you can't just, you don't want to just enter. You know what I mean?
Right.
Again, we'll try to find something. Let's see if I can explain it better. Let's see here. All right, this look like let's see if this one works out. Again, all right, trying to find a bat pattern. This one will be a bearish bat pattern. Start off measuring our X to the A. X of A leg, then we got to use the Fibonacci retracement to figure out where B retrace back to. Right here. All right, you can see right here we got a touch of the 50%. That means our B leg is valid. And we can begin to look for a C leg. In order for the C leg to be valid, we got to have a pullback of at least a 382 from A to B. You can see it came down and hit the 618, which is fine because we could have even came down, hit 100% of the A leg, and it's still been valid. So we do have a valid C leg here. Now, this is where we're looking for the price to come back up to the 886. And that's of X, that's of the X to the A leg, the 886. And you can see here wick passed, but price respected the 886, then went down. I think it actually took out our targets. Six, and it wouldn't have been stopped out. Remember our stops, we're going to use the Fibonacci extension. We're going to go from A to X, sort of reverse, come back down to A. Stops would have been right at the 113. You see price never got up there. Targets, Fibonacci retracement to, oh, somebody writing on me. Fibonacci retracement to from A to D. And you can see using the 382, first target would have been met here. At this point, we would have took our stop loss and moved it down to break even. So the trade would have been risk-free. And then it actually doesn't come down to the 618. It almost does. So maybe it would have took prices noticing the candle patterns starting to turn there. So that is indeed a valid bat pattern. Let's see if I can find another one. Let's get rid of all this stuff. Probably should have found some. Let's try another pair. See if I can find some. Is there anyone? Can anyone erase that drawing right there, Raquel? Maybe.
I'm trying to do it from my end, but I can't.
All right, we'll go right past it. No big deal. Probably an accident.
Yeah, it probably was not done on purpose, but if everyone can just check with regards to removing that, it's in your annotate menu and click clear.
All right, here we go. This should be I think this should be a valid bat pattern here. Okay. Nah, it's not valid. Oh, that is valid. That doesn't quite hit the 618 here. I say that's valid. JM Pips, I have to check me if I'm wrong. Let's see. Got our X to A. Once we identified our X to A, our anchor leg, we look for price to pull back to the 50, but not touch the 618. And it actually doesn't touch the 618 right here. Comes close, but it doesn't touch it. So I would call that valid. Once the B leg is considered a valid B leg, we begin to look for the C leg. So we got to use Fibonacci retracement again. We'll go from A to B. See the price comes to the 618, can't break above. Would have been valid even if it came to the 886 or 100% again, but it doesn't. So we do have a valid C leg here as well. So we can begin to look for our D extension. Oh, excuse me. At the 886 of X to A. And we do have 886 respect here. So you can see prices on its way up.
Yeah.
Maybe even to look for entries to the upside this week. We use Fibonacci retracement from A to D. Fibonacci extension for the stops. We'd be looking to get out here at the 382. 618. That's what this trade setup would look like on a bullish bat pattern. You can see the risk is it's at least 2 to 1. Just about every time it'll be 2 to 1. Let's see. Any time frame, any pair. Bat patterns everywhere. Wasn't trying to rhyme. Maybe that's valid. Let's see if that one's working. Nah. See, price comes up to the 618. Invalid. Probably be looking for a Garley or something else. Different class. There we go. Let's see here. All right, there we go. You can see that our impulse leg came down, X of A, XA, had price come back up and retrace to the 50%, didn't touch the 618. Once we have a valid B leg, we look for the Fibonacci retracement from A to B. Price to pull back to a minimum of 382. You can see it does. It pulls back to the 886. Valid C leg. Then we look to enter at the 886 of X of A. Once again, price respected. So, another bat pattern. Pretty much turned at the 886. Stops wouldn't have been hit at all. Again, figure out your stops. You go to the trend Fibonacci extension. Go from A to X, back to A. Use your 113 as a stop loss. 113 extension. You can see right here it will be back at our previous high pretty much. We'd be looking for targets at the .382 and the 618. Retracement from A to D. You can see the 382 got knocked out. We would have moved our stop loss down to break even. Let it ride down to the 618 for our second target, and it would have been took out as well before it turned up to the upside. Guess I'll try to see if we can find another pattern. Another bat pattern, because it's literally millions of them every week. We trade them a lot. J Pips trades them a lot. It might be a small one. Doesn't hit the 618, but it does extend past the cipher pattern look. Does anyone have any questions while I search for another bat pattern?
Feel free to unmute your mics because everyone would be muted right now. Unmute your mics and ask questions.
All right, I got a question.
Yes, sir.
Okay, so like say you see a bat pattern on a higher time frame, like a 4 hour, right? You know that the trend, you know, it's a bullish trend or a bearish trend. Is it possible to like so and then say you go down to a lower time frame, can you keep finding bat patterns and kind of like predict where it's going to go within the next, you know, like say I see a bat pattern on a higher time frame, I go to the hour, I see that there's maybe another pattern forming, but it's going the opposite direction. Is it possible to analyze it that way and keep going down, to, you know, until, you know, your lower time frames and seeing the pattern and
Yeah,
being able to, you know, predict where it's going to go in the next 5 minutes or the next 30 minutes?
I see what you're saying. So you always want to. I like looking for patterns on higher time frames because, you know, I work during the day, so I don't really have the time to look back at the smaller time frames all the time. You feel me? So I look at the higher time frames, give me a little bit more time to, you know what I mean, for it to work. But when looking for entries, you always want to go down to a lower time frame to, you know, try to get a perfect entry if you would. We don't like much. Try to have the least amount of drawdown as possible. So even if, say, like even if this pattern right here, we say, which it doesn't come back and hit the 886, I guess that would be a failed pattern because it does touch the 50%. Yeah, it doesn't come back up to the 886, so I guess that would be considered a failed pattern.
Well, say I'm on like the 4 hour, right? And I see that the pattern is forming from the C to the D. And then maybe I go down to the 1 hour and I see another possible bullish, you know, Gartley pattern forming. I mean, is that looking at analyzing it that way? Is that like the right way to analyze it or to look at it? Or am I like contradicting myself by doing it that way?
Nah, I think you're good. I think you're supposed to go down to a lower time frame. So, all right, see if I can find where I was right there.
Because basically, that's what I'll kind of look for, and then I'll go and try to the lower time frame and look for a better reversal, like a flag pattern, or
Exactly.
or a harmonic pattern.
That's the best way. That's the same way I look at it, bro. That's the way to find entries. You try to find you look for the bigger pattern. Of course, it's more liable to respect the higher time frame. That's stronger support and resistance. So then you look at a lower time frame to try to find the reversal patterns. That way, you know, you get your perfect entry, which is always good. Least amount of stop loss. Let me see if I can make an example. I don't know if it's any. I guess I should have tried to find some. Oh wow. Damn it. All right, here we go. We actually traded this whenever this Euro-pound bat pattern. Oh, it wasn't a bat pattern. It came down to the. Oh, I went past it. It was something else. Even still, we still bought. We probably bought like around here or something. This is a pattern that we had saw on the daily. I guess maybe it was 2 weeks ago. Even still, even though it came down below, we traded it anyway. It wasn't I guess it was an invalid bat pattern, but we saw the pattern on the daily, but we wouldn't have never entered on the daily because I mean that's you playing with a lot when you see a pattern on the daily. The stop loss could look short, but even a stop loss here, like if we're here on the daily at the 87710, then the stop loss is here at the, you know what I'm saying? It doesn't look like much movement, but it's like 70 pips or something crazy. So you always got to go down. We noticed this pattern a couple of days before it even took off, so you always got to do a top-down analysis and go down to the 4-hour, which I guess we probably would have noticed it around somewhere. It wasn't done when we noticed it, but we were patient, so we stayed in. But yeah, we let the candlesticks talk. Try to let it take off, and you always want to go down to the lower time frame to see where you can get in. I see what you said. I hope I answered your question, bro. That was a good question.
Yeah, you did. I mean, that's just something I've been kind of trying to keep my strategy and my mindset that way the last week, and I actually seen a difference in my trading. So,
Top-down analysis.
Yeah, and then again, I started messing with something or changing something up and saw some different results. So I got to get back into that, finding that right way to look at it and just sticking with it.
Top down, do it the same way every time, bro. That's the only way you can really trail yourself. Because you try to do something different, then and it works out or it doesn't work out, then you know what I'm saying, you change the recipe, so you can't really.
Yeah, exactly.
Going wrong. You always want to go top down though. That's the same thing. Caribbean Blue, she's gonna start up at them high time frames, maybe even the monthly. Work down to the hour, maybe 30 minutes for entries. Try to get that perfect entry. But yeah, I hope everybody learned something, man. We found a couple of bat patterns. I hope you can see that it's a lot of bat patterns in the market. They're gonna happen every day. We get these every day. This is one that we trade a lot at Legacy. With but yeah, we'll be on getting in the markets today, waiting for 5 o'clock.
Indeed.
Right now, that's really all I have. So I'm gonna turn it back over to Caribbean Blue. I hope y'all enjoyed the little first session on harmonic basics. Again, I'm Donnie Eccles, and I'll be seeing y'all for the next one. I guess we'll schedule it, let y'all know.
Appreciate it.
Great job, bro.
Thank y'all.
Okay, guys, thank you so much. I hope that you all were able to get some mad nuggets. I certainly did. And I will be scheduling when next Mr. Eccles will be on our session again. So just stay tuned to the Facebook page on Caribbean Blue FXTT and you will know. Feel free to inbox me for any further information. Follow us with regards to our analysis and so on. And that's it. Thank you again.